Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine with another edition of Chart Watch, and this is the last edition of 2022. I mentioned in last week's episode that I expected or thought it was possible that Taylor Swift's album Midnights could end up being number one again, as she'd been literally just behind each of these subsequent number one releases since her album came out a few weeks ago, and that is exactly what has happened. There's also been in the news quite a few things about CD sales and vinyl sales, and I thought I'd touch on that, but also give my own kind of feeling about where all this is heading, and especially for fans of physical music. So, and of course, there'll be a quick look at new release news as well. So let's dive in and look at the UK album charts and what's been happening in the top three places. As I said, Taylor Swift's Midnights has gone back to number one, and it sold 17,109 units, of which 5,055 were on CD and 4,147 were on vinyl, 14 cassettes, 203 downloads and 7,690 sales equivalent streams. Now that puts her in number one position. I just want to kind of point out something here so you've got an idea of how the music business has changed. Cliff Richard, who obviously really wanted to get to number one but didn't quite, he almost got there again. He's back up to number two in the charts, and he got 14,743 sales on which, sorry, no he didn't, he got 15,048 sales. 14,743 were on CD and 305 were on vinyl. And Michael Buble, which I know one of my subscribers will be very keen to know, went up to number three again in the charts with 14,300 sales for his album. So collectively, those top three positions in the UK album chart from the final week of 2022 equals 46,946. Now that is just 4.59% of the biggest ever combined sales for a top three over a Christmas period. I'll explain now. Now listen to this for the difference in figures, okay? This is the year 2000, week 51, the Christmas week. The Beatles were number one with a compilation, which sold 422,000 copies. Westlife were at number two with Coast to Coast, which sold 305,245. And Robbie Williams, his third solo album, Sing When I'm Winning, had 295,802, which made a total of 1,023,000 sales, of which 976,000 were on CD. 46,000 cassettes, I bet you forgot they were still popular then, and 566 vinyl albums. So in the year 2000, it was 566 vinyl albums, actually plus 393 mini discs. Anybody remember them? But 1 million CD sales. So if we take the top three from 2022, Michael Buble, Cliff Richard and Taylor Swift, they collectively wouldn't have got higher than number 37 in the charts back in the year 2000. So that tells you the number of sales now we get from albums. I'm not looking at singles, it's just too complicated for this particular episode. But that tells you a lot about how things have changed. Literally combined is 46,900 for 2022 and over 1 million for the year 2000. And I mentioned last week that Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon had gone back in the charts, and that was basically people buying the vinyl album for Christmas presents. That's exactly what that was. Another 2,000 copies, all on vinyl, which saw it zoom up towards the low reaches of the charts back then. So all of this obviously adds questions the way that the music business looks at these things, to do with CD sales. Are they dropping? Are they going down? Vinyl sales? It's just vinyl. And if I look at some of the stuff that I've read in the last few weeks, That's the only format that gets talked about. And overall, CD sales have dropped, okay? But I just want to talk about how it depends on how you slice the cake to how this actually looks. And you'll see, some of you look at The Guardian and other things, and Music Week, that everything is about vinyl sales, and the CD is seen again as a dying format. And you know that people who watch this channel and are in the Now Spinning Facebook community and lots of other similar channels and websites, etc. People love physical music, and this channel, this website, celebrates all physical formats. But my kind of love of the CD is driven by the fact that so many people are so quick to write it off, thinking it's no longer relevant. So I just want to kind of illustrate some of these things now, and this is especially due to my collecting data over the last few weeks. And as Chart Watch continues in 2023, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. And obviously Taylor Swift, the Arctic Monkeys, etc., both seen as being blockbuster artists that really pushed the vinyl sales forwards. Taylor Swift's LP was the highest vinyl release the year to date, 72,392 vinyl sales. Harry Styles, 65,000, etc. And the Car was 43,000. However, if I actually look at that week where Midnight's sold that many vinyl sales, what was it again? 72,392. CD sales was 75,667 in the first week. And I know it was higher after that. I've got the data as well. So actually, Taylor Swift may have driven vinyl sales, but CD sales also did incredibly well from that release. The Arctic Monkeys, with The Car, got to number 2. This is also seen as an album that really pushed vinyl sales forwards in 2022. It did 37,866 in the first week of release. It sold 57,934 CDs in the same week. It was hardly a dead format, was it not? Where else have we got to? Paul Heaton and Jackie Abbott got to number 1 with 19,597 sales, of which 15,500 were on CD and 2,700 were on vinyl. Slipknot was the end so far at number 1, 14,000 sales, 7,873 on CD, 2,091 on vinyl. We also had Dermot Kennedy got to number 1. Also, sales were 25,778. CDs were 14,661. Vinyl was 4,479. Taylor Swift got to number 1 the second week of her release, and that was 48,000 sales, 8,000 were on CD, 4,000 were on vinyl. Now, the other one I meant to mention here, particularly, is from Phil Halliday, who's the managing director of HMV and FOP, and I really support both of those shops. I love them dearly, especially FOP, and I wish there was another one down nearer where I live. And he talks about Harry Styles, Liam Gallagher, Ozzy Osbourne, Robbie Williams, Taylor Swift, etc., all having great sales with vinyl, etc. And the whole thing he talks about is that vinyl has become a major force in promoting new releases, as well as delivering superb sales on reissues such as George Michael's Older and the Beatles' Revolver. Okay, now the Beatles' Revolver got to number 2, and the total sales were literally 21,000. On CD, 11,561, and vinyl was 5,800. And I think he could have mentioned that. He could have mentioned, yes, that the vinyl was being pushed by these things, but CDs were still outpacing them. So basically, it really comes down to revenue, doesn't it? Because CD units are selling, they might be seen as impulse buys, and you walk into a shop and you've got 10, 11 quid and you think, I'll go for that. I'll give it a go. Because the fact is that vinyl sales are up by a modest 1.9% on the year before. That sounds like it's close to plateauing. Obviously, the PR companies behind this saying it's another year, 15th year of consecutive growth. Just about, really, isn't it? And the revenue is up by 11%. which isn't huge, but when you think that most vinyl sales now are over £35 for a single album, that is not an impulse buy. With the way things are, with the cost of living and how people look at things. As I've said before, saying 3 vinyl albums for 60 quid or 2 for 40, that doesn't, people think that could be a night out with your friends, it could be a weekly shop. There's a lot of things going on there. Okay, there's a lot of things going on there. But my key point is that when we think of CD sales or physical music sales overall, it's a different market now, and you have to look at it different, because you could look at things like Cherry Red, who make absolutely fantastic box sets. I'm looking up to all the ones I'm going to put in my end of year review. There is that they're short runs. They're not going to be in the charts. They're not going to be that. They look at the licensing. They look at the package they can put together. They've got a budget. They think about the size of the audience, and they do a short run. It sells. And if they think it's worth doing again, they'll do another pressing, and then they'll watch to see what happens. And that's how the physical music market is. The box sets I've done recently, that they limited runs of 1,500 copies or 2,000 copies. It's so different. I was looking at an advert that was printed in the Black Sabbath, I think it was Mob Rules release, and there was a press release showing that one of the singles was coming out, and it said limited edition of 25,000, first 25,000 copies come with a picture sleeve. 25,000 copies was seen then as a limited run, but now that would be a very, very good selling number one item. We're in a totally different world. So I don't think that physical media is going to die out, and I don't think the CD is going to die out. It's going to have a niche, dedicated, passionate following as it has. And I think that labels like Cherry Red, Esoteric, Grapefruit Records, and BMG in many respects, know that, they can do these box sets and these reissues put together for the fan, with all the bells and whistles, put together a lot of love and passion, and there's an audience for that, and it's a growing audience. And obviously vinyl has got an audience as well, but there's no doubting that streaming is something that's part of our day-to-day lives, and it is for me. As I've said before, it's like the radio. So I go in and check things out. I don't have a DJ interrupting what I'm listening to, or waiting for an hour and a half to see if they're going to play this track they mentioned at the start of the show. I can go and listen to it. It doesn't bother me that it suggests what I might like, because I actually like that. So I've discovered lots of things, and then I go and buy the album. And the fact is that channels like this, Now Spinning Magazine, is dedicated to supporting new music, the artists, the musicians, the labels that create this wonderful art form. And so if you really do love something you hear, please go and buy the CD or the vinyl album or the package or the bundle, whatever it is, because it really does help the artist. So that's a quick overview of what's happened towards the end of the year. So what is coming up next? Well, the key things that I wanted to mention these are all Cherry Red releases, but they're really, really exciting. There's Hawkwind Days of the Underground live and studio recordings, which is a 10 CD set, and Stephen Wilson is involved in that. This is recordings from 1977 to 79, so this is the Hawk Lords period of the band, and I think that's going to be really, really exciting. So I'm absolutely very excited, looking forward to reviewing that. Randy Crawford has got a 3D CD set called You Might Need Somebody, and The Arrows, the complete collection. Jade Warrior, the albums from 74-78. That's my favourite period of Jade Warrior. Floating World will be amongst that. Foghat, Road Fever, the complete Bearsville recordings 72 to 75. That also looks great. There was a box set for them out a while ago, but it's been long out of print now. And for fans of 10cc of the classic period, excluding the first two albums, How Dare You, Deceptive Bends, they're being released on vinyl again on 27th of February, and the original soundtrack of Bloody Tourist comes out on the 28th of April. Also, I mentioned last week Iggy Pop's new album Every Loser comes out on December the 31st. Riverside, which I'm really excited about, is January the 20th. There's multiple bundles for that. January the 27th is Uriah Heep, Chaos and Colour. Eva Cassidy, It Can Only Be Me, on February the 3rd. February the 10th, we have Delane and Dark Waters, Paramore, This Is Why. And the other ones are quite further down the list, with Rival Sons and Dark Fighter on March the 10th. Van Morrison, Moving On the Skiffle label, is on March the 10th also. And much further on, Baby Metal, the other one March 24th. Deborah Harry, Cuckoo is the deluxe edition of that album, coming out on April the 7th. Metallica, 72 Seasons, on April the 14th. And the Smashing Pumpkins on April the 21st. So that is everything I've got for you in this final week of 2022. So before you go, make sure you subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on there, and share with all your friends. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe and ring that little bell. And if you're on the website, you can drop comments wherever you like. And if you'd like to know more and get to exclusive content from Now Spinning Magazine, look about becoming a patron, which would be absolutely wonderful if you did. So thank you very much, and I shall look forward to seeing you and talking to you on my next broadcast.